And you'll find very few sectors which have the same degree of cross-party support. But here in the North East of Scotland, the active support of the SNP, the Labour Party, the Lib Dems, the Conservatives, I know I'm a bit of a rare specimen being in the North East of Scotland, but nevertheless, all the parties agree on the critical importance of this industry and of seeing it prosper and the jobs which it can bring. And that cooperation is critical if we're going to see the supply chain benefits as well.
How do you think the future of the oil and gas industry will be affected by the independence debate?
Well, it'll be interesting to see how that develops. At the moment, I think it's been a very narrow debate about the revenues and whether that means that an independent Scotland is viable economically or not. And I think that debate has to be a much broader debate that actually talks about how those resources are going to be managed in the future. And also, I think it needs to talk about renewable resources too, because actually, I think if you look at Scotland as an energy-rich country, which it still is, a lot of the big problems that it faces is a lot of those resources are being managed by foreign multinational corporations, and I personally think we should be talking about how we control and manage those resources in a much better, slower, progressive way that spreads the benefits across the community as a whole. I think the Scottish Government is doing what it can, but it's quite limited by its limited powers. And that would be the interesting thing with independence, about whether it actually would take on a more active management of those resources. For example, you know, developing perhaps Scottish-owned companies, more public ownership of the sector, I think would be quite good, and also encouraging more growth in the supply base for local Scottish firms. I think we kind of missed out a little bit on North Sea oil last time around. I did a lot of research on that in the past, and a lot of the technology that came out of the North Sea was kind of captured by foreign companies, although there have been some successful stories locally. But I think it's important you don't miss the boat.
Well, some countries use their oil and gas revenues to create a sovereign wealth fund. There are various Arab dictatorships that did that. Norway did it. The Alaska Permanent Fund's another example. In Venezuela, they did something similar. But in Shetland, we had our own little sovereign wealth fund in our own little county. In the United Kingdom as a whole, that money, some would say it was wasted. It went into the general pot. It was used for general expenditure. And we don't have a sovereign wealth fund. What we've done in Shetland is show that you can have a successful oil industry, you can have a degree of local revenue sharing to create basically a Norwegian social democratic welfare state in one county, which is what we've done. But you can do that without affecting the profitability of the industry.
I think the UK has faced really a national tragedy that, you know, it's been earning money from oil and gas for 30 or 40 years, and none of that money has been set aside for the rainy day. So it's a national tragedy, and oil and gas companies don't want to talk about it. Politicians have avoided this question, and I don't see this coming up very much in the independence debate. But you have to talk about that, because, you know, the oil and gas resources won't be here forever. So one of the useful things you can do is learn from countries such as Brazil, such as Norway, such as various others, how to deal with, on the one hand, you know, using the oil and gas sector now to generate jobs and so forth, but on the other hand, to set money for the future, because that oil won't be there forever.